Good afternoon, I'm Kayla Valdez, and today we're going to be talking about working in the field of psychology and ethical dilemmas that may arise. First, we're going to take a look at a dilemma, and then we'll learn a little bit about our code of ethics and their advantages and disadvantages. Next, we'll learn how to resolve conflict productively, and our personal views versus professional standards. Then, let's see if we can come up with a solution to that dilemma we talked about earlier. The purpose is to work on being able to tackle these dilemmas as a team and avoid them, or at least be able to productively resolve them in the best and most simplest way. Psychology is the field of helping others solve inner conflict within themselves, and so there are often ethical dilemmas that may arise. Let's imagine psychotherapist Jason is a professor at a local college. He also works at a local therapist agency. One of his students unknowingly goes to that office where he works. Can Jason treat her? If he can't, can they say hi in the waiting room? During class, can they discuss her treatment or her feelings towards another therapist in the office? What is ethically right in such a situation? Every career path has their own version of professional work ethics. The Psychology Code of Ethics has 10 standards. The first one is resolving ethical issues. This one basically covers the misuse of one's work, whether it is in a peer-reviewed journal, to a potential employer, to be deceptive to potential clients. And it covers that you have to be cooperative among the ethics committees. And the next one is competence. It basically states that you must not practice outside your expertise. So if your expertise is psychology or social work, or maybe you focused on forensic psychology and you don't know that much about marriage and family therapy, then you shouldn't be practicing marriage and family therapy. You should be focusing on doing detective style work, maybe working in the police department, things like that. Human relations is the next one. This states that there should be no sexual relationships among a client and a therapist, no discrimination, age, gender, race, culture, ethnicity. This covers avoiding harm to your clients, whether it was intentional or unintentional. We want to make sure that we are helping them. We need to avoid having multiple relationships. So again, this goes back to whether it's a sexual relationship or it's a family member, a friend, you guys used to date, professor and student. We need to avoid all relationships like that. Avoid conflicts of interest. This can be a therapist who got a little bit too attached to a client. Maybe they're older and they need some help around the house, but they're still seeing her as a therapist. That's a conflict of interest because you're acting kind of like a family member and then you're acting as a professional. And avoid providing additional services. So it kind of goes back to having that dual relationship, and we can use the example of a therapist who just got too close to an older client who reminds her of her mother, and she just wants to care for her, and she wants to drive her around and get her groceries and clean the house for her. All those things are unethical, so that is covered in human relations. Next, we have privacy and confidentiality. So maintaining confidentiality, anything said in a session should not be shared amongst family, friends, police, doctors. You have to obtain permission from the client. The only time you can break that is if they are actually breaking the law or threatening to cause harm to others. Just being able to obtain permission to record sessions whether it's for your records or you want to record the session for them, you have to obtain permission from the client. Next, we have advertising and other public statements. It's really important to avoid deceptive statements on your training, experience, services, and so forth. And you can't solicit testimonials from other clients, things of that nature. That's covered in advertising and other public statements. Next, we have record keeping and fees. That one states that we cannot hold records due to non-payment, and we can't barter with clients for services instead of monetary payments. So if a client got behind on, let's say, 3 sessions of payments, we can't say, we're going to hold your records, or we'll give you your records if you come clean our house for 3 weeks in a row. We can't do things of that nature. Education and training. This is more or less if you're into like college coursework and being a professor. This one covers making sure that there's accurate course descriptions and expectations, that there's accuracy in the syllabi, and that they're getting the proper training. Next is research and publication. The research must be approved by institution. You can't just say, I'm gonna go study this and expect to get grant money. You have to write a letter to the institution, get it approved, get your grant money, and go about it the proper way. You have to obtain informed consent from all participants. It's very important. And then at the end of your session with the participants, you have to debrief them, especially if they might have been led in the wrong direction. If the study was a little bit deceptive, you just got to tell them a little bit about what you were researching, why they may have been led in the wrong direction, what the research is going to go to, and offer them the chance to be able to read the research themselves. Next, we have assessment, which covers making sure that we're using the test appropriately, whether it's an IQ test or we're testing for autism, anything of that nature. Just making sure we're choosing the right one and we're obtaining informed consent. You can't test somebody that doesn't want to be tested, regardless of their age. And being able to interpret the results, taking in differences such as culture, personal, and then situational. So for the IQ test, being able to understand that a 9-year-old American boy might test a little bit higher than a 9-year-old Asian student who came here to study abroad, because there's cultural differences and our test is more weighted towards the Western values and traditions. Next is therapy. That one just covers being able to obtain informed consent. You can't counsel someone that doesn't want to be there and counsel and participate to create their treatment plan. You can't break confidentiality in couples or family therapy. So that covers if a mother is in there and she's talking one-on-one with you, you can't bring the rest of the family back in the room and say, this is what she had to say about you guys. She has to be able to say that when everyone is together in the room. And if it's mother and a daughter and the daughter is underage, same thing, you can't break that confidentiality without permission from the client. It also covers being able to terminate therapy if we feel that we cannot help the client anymore. Maybe their treatment plan has been modified and we feel that they are healed, or that we've given them all the tools and resources that we can, and that we don't see a further benefit from continuing therapy. That gives the therapist permission to do that without truly causing harm to the client. And Lastly, it covers having no former or current relationships with clients. So again, no sexual relationships, no friends, family, student teacher, used to date each other, anything of that nature. It is not allowed. You guys cannot be a client therapist. The Professional Code of Ethics in Psychology has advantages and disadvantages, just as every other code of ethics out there. Let's take a deeper look into the advantages. It provides structure for the company as there is one set of rules for everyone to follow. This helps dismiss any biases such as race, gender, age, culture, and ethnicity. It encourages honesty about previous relationships or current double relationships. For instance, it's not okay for one therapist to have a sexual relationship with a client, but not another. It's not okay for one therapist to counsel their grandmother, but not another. It's not okay for one therapist to counsel a previous student, but not another. It also protects the therapist and the client. It protects the client in that their records can't be held due to non-payment. It also protects the client in that their confidentiality can't be broken unless they break the law or are threatening to cause harm to others. It protects the therapist in that their work is their work. They have to be given credit for all research. The disadvantages, on the other hand, are that clients may not always get the resources they need as quickly due to having double relationships with maybe multiple therapists in the office. There will be a loss of profits as maybe a client feels really comfortable with one therapist in particular, but they can't counsel them because they already have a relationship such as the professor and student. So there will be a loss of profits on that end. Another disadvantage is that we cannot always help a couple or a family when it's in a group therapy session due to confidentiality. So anything said in the group setting is shared publicly amongst each other. But if we pull, let's say, the mother into the room and make the rest of the family leave, we are not required to share what she said one-on-one to us, just as for anyone else in the family. So we might not be able to truly help them solve an issue if they're not willing to open up amongst each other. Another disadvantage is that a client may endanger themselves due to termination of therapy, because as a therapist, we have the right to say we're no longer going to counsel someone because we do not see them gaining any more benefits. We feel that we have done everything we can for them, or that they're maybe healed, but maybe deep down, they just don't want to show us that they still need help. And they could go out and harm themselves. And then we feel like morally that falls back on us. Another disadvantage is there could be a loss of professional relationships. So if you know that a coworker is having a sexual relationship with a client, and you go and you tell a supervisor, and then you tell the licensing board, and then the police get involved, you could lose that relationship if the board allows them to stay practicing. They might not ever trust you again. They might not ask for your help. But it's a chance you have to take. Resolving conflict productively. An ethical violation must be reported immediately to officials such as police and the licensing board. This is the one time that you can break confidentiality. So for example, you have a client who says that they're going to wear a bomb jacket and go to a mall. You want to have your client's best interest at heart and protect them, but they're also threatening to break the law and to cause harm to others. So you alert the police. In another instance, maybe you know that a coworker is having a sexual relationship with one of their clients, which is against the code of ethics. So you want to have their best interest at heart for the client and make sure that they're getting the treatment that they truly need. So you go to the licensing board and you let them handle the therapist, and then you find the client a new therapist so that they can continue their treatment. It's best that you write down what the conflict is and how it affects the client, the public, and yourself. You should familiarize yourself with the code of ethics, decide if it breaks the law, just as we talked about previously with the bombing or having sexual encounters with your clients. Acknowledge what you can't do and begin to formulate ideas to resolve this ethical dilemma. You need to write out all these ideas and then choose your best course of action. You should look at the universality of it. So, is this what your other coworkers would do? Is it the best decision? You need to look at the justice of your course of action. Is it having the client's best interest at heart? Are they still receiving the best treatment possible? And then you need to look at the publicity of it. If it was on a magazine cover, would you be okay with it? So, for instance, a counselor instead of counselor. Maybe this counselor just inherited millions of dollars because their widow died. Would you be okay with that on a magazine cover, knowing that you did that? Is that okay with your peers? Would they do the same thing? Evaluate the outcome. Once you are confident that this is the best choice you can make, you need to implement the action. After Jason takes some time to reflect on the conflict and the consequences that it may cause, he should explain the code of ethics to the student so that they do not feel shunned, but instead understand why they cannot socialize at the office, why Jason can't be their therapist, or why they can't talk in class about their treatment plan or their other therapist. They need to understand that this would cause a double association in a relationship, and that would jeopardize their treatment plan and Jason's license to practice. Also, a double relationship in the field of psychology is just unacceptable. It is frowned upon to have had past sexual encounters or a family member to come see you because there will be biases formed. So it's important for the student to understand that he is strictly their professor. Jason, however, should show empathy and understanding and let the student know that he's sorry that they're going through some troubling experiences, and he hopes that they understand where he is coming from. Our personal views versus professional standards can often have disagreements, and that's okay. Personally, mine is that as a psychologist, we have the right to terminate therapy when we do not see that a client is benefiting any longer. I disagree with that professional standard because personally, I think everyone needs someone to talk to, even if they're healed or their PTSD is gone, or we found out that they have ADHD and we provided them with the resources they need to be successful. I think that everyone still needs someone to be able to talk to just about their daily life struggles and how maybe their diagnosis affects their life. And I don't understand how we can truly tell if someone is no longer benefiting. I know that personally I've attended therapy for years and years, and I've still found it benefit. I've always learned a new stress management technique or a coping mechanism or just different meditation and breathing techniques. I think that somebody can always benefit even if we've provided them with the resources for their diagnosis and have cleared them as healed. Let's take a moment and let you think about a standard that you don't agree with. You don't have to share it, just think about it. I want to thank you guys for your time and giving me the opportunity to talk to you about ethical dilemmas in the field of psychology. On this slide, you'll find the resources I used for this presentation, and it gives you a chance to do some more research yourself. Thank you.